I binge watched Netflix's latest offering, Members Only Palm Beach, in one weekend. And before you judge me, I want you to know that this is constituting as American research. Because I feel this is the tipping point. America is now serving fascism, deep fried and spray tanned, as palpable. But the truth is that this is the new Mar-A-Largo matriarch, and she is very, very dangerous. Let's talk about it. So, Netflix's newest show, Members Only, is like 8 episodes long, and I sat there from beginning to end, so you don't have to. I'll give you the gist. Simultaneously on Apple TV, they're serving up a scripted series called Royale, starring Kristen Wiig and Ricky Martin, among other celebrities. I also binged that as well. It takes place in 1969. Still the same concept of wealthy white women essentially clawing their way through social status and showcasing the behind the scenes of what happens in Mar-A-Largo and in Palm Beach, right? Because that's where the wealthy play. But every single weekend in real time in the United States of America in 2026, we also see the Orange Emperor and his minions, administration, groupies, etc., broadcasting live, making policies at Mar-A-Largo. And shit is wild. There is a correlation between all three. So in today's video, we're going to take the framework that I created almost 18 years ago from my Plight of the Hot Girl thesis and use it to decode the dangers of what happens when wealthy white women are served up as harmless, even aspirational in American culture. Because baby, we know it's anything but. Let's start with Members Only Palm Beach. Okay, so I was seated from episode 1 because the algorithm knows me by name. They know what I like. I'm here for reality TV, anything that is going to consume me with wealth, opulence, and of course some cattiness. And the show has all of that. But this is the first time, if I may argue, and I need to do more research, that we get a behind the scenes look at what happens in Palm Beach. They're so wealthy that it's the playground for the wealthiest of the wealthy in the world. And that's where they season because they don't stay there full time. So the show premise is of women who live on the island, and it showcases the hierarchy of their social circles, what they do day to day, shop, buy clothes, spend money, pretend to be the faces of these shell charities and throw charity functions literally every other day. And lastly, head to Mar-A-Largo, which is the elite country club where they get to hang out with Donnie. That's short for Donald J. Trump, the Orange Emperor. It immediately will alert most people before you get through the first episode of all the red flags because you can see these women are the MAGA elite. They have no concept of what's really happening in the world because they're only focused on their own wealth, their own catty drama, and charity functions. So let's get into the cast, right? Let's break down what People Magazine has to say so I can get their full names and their full descriptions. Members Only Palm Beach follows an affluent group of women as they navigate wealth, social hierarchies, and complicated friendship dynamics. So in the cast, we start off with Hillary Musser. Hillary Musser is the seasoned Palm Beach attendee. She's been there for almost 22 seasons. And she's one of the most successful of the cast. On her 5th husband, she is self-made because of all of those husbands. She now has a luxury real estate license, and her latest husband is a doorman. Catch that gag. She ends up being like the lead Mussolini of the cast, if you will. She is the key player. There's also Taja Apital, whose grandparents had wealth, and she used to come to Palm Beach to summer and season with them in her youth. Now she's self-made because she has a line of wellness products at the Faena. Love that spot. In Miami. She's also the partner of David Cohn, 5-time World Series champion, and they share a son. She calls herself a single mother because her spouse is rarely at home. One of her famous quotes is, "Everyone in Palm Beach needs to know how to behave around real wealth. And it's all about how you look, baby. You need to be best dressed even if you're going to the dentist." Thank you. Then we have Rosalind Yellen. Rosalind, who's actually one of the most hilarious on the cast because she hails from small town Pennsylvania, and she and her husband are self-made. They're one of the newer couples to Palm Beach seasonal. They moved from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, about 5 years ago. It was their dream to get to Palm Beach, and they finally made it. She's come from teaching fitness classes, and they do a flashback where she's a Zumba instructor, looking quite middle class, to where she is now with a new face, a new body, a new everything, honey. And she is in Palm Beach, clawing her way to the top, trying to make big dog status. It's hilarious. There's also Romina Usteev. Excuse me if I'm butchering her name. Romina is the youngest on the cast and considered new money. This is only her second season within Palm Beach, and she left Uzbekistan looking for a better life. She got to Pennsylvania as well. There's a tie-in somewhere within Pennsylvania, but we're going to come back to that because I don't know enough about it to do the full tea, but there's definitely a correlation there. She says that making it in Palm Beach is super important to her. On her second husband, she's worth about $34 million based on a marketing company, and the rest of the cast laughs at her behind her back as she aspires to get into these social circles, and her money is not enough. This season is her trying to fit in with the rest of the cast by changing her dress, changing her appearance, changing her disposition so that she can be one of the elite. There's Maria Kozam, also known as DJ Dimples. She made her way to the top of the social circles by being a DJ at Mar-A-Largo because, they get the party popping at Mar-A-Largo. Donald J. Trump and Elon know how to get it popping. So she's made millions, and now she's staying in Palm Beach. So she's kicking up drama and making her presence known, okay? And then there's friend of the show, Gail Brophy. I found her to be the most hilarious and delusional. She is old hat Palm Beach. Once upon a time, she and one of her husbands used to run Palm Beach, but they have fallen off. So much so that Gail's not even a full member at Mar-A-Largo, and they call her out on it several times throughout the last episodes because she's not even on the country club list. Can she get into Mar-A-Largo? And Gail, with her polyester wigs and bad dressing, still wants to pass the baton, like literally pass the baton, into this social circle and elite group to Rosalind. And their banter is so funny to watch. Funny like a toothache. And I mean that because you're watching with your mouth agape at all of this wealth, all of this talk of wealth, all of this opulence, all of this tacky and déclassé behavior masked as philanthropy and uber wealthy women behaving badly, right? The cast is inherently tacky, visually tacky. It's so tacky, it's jarring. From the Botox to the surgeries to the way that the women are presented, from their hair, makeup, body. There's a lot of focus on the physical presentation and how they're going to maintain it, and people are dying, Kim. But that does not matter to anyone on this cast. Most of them live outside of Palm Beach because those on the actual island are forbidden to record. So the show is a lot of controversy on its head in real time because there is infighting on the island as to if this is even a real portrayal of the wealthy of Palm Beach, because if you have to talk about your wealth and you have to have a reality television camera following you around, are you really wealthy? But it's great fodder for production and made a great television show and a decent watch if you can get past the MAGA of it all. The fact that these women genuinely aspired to be around the MAGA elite, the Trump administration donors, and they want to keep everyone else out of their elite wealthy business. We all know how dangerous that is in real life. So let's go to the notes. The women are charitable. They act as the faces of a lot of charity functions. These charities, for the majority of Americans, are charities we've never heard of before. They purport to raise money for veterans, for animals, for diseases no one's really heard of. And then you realize that we're not really sure where all this money is coming from, because when you peel back the onion, who really has money in Mar-A-Largo? And where is the money coming from? It's very much art, reality TV imitating real life, Donald J. Trump. But that doesn't stop any of these women from aspiring to stay as country club members within Mar-A-Largo, because that is the coup de grace, the membership country club elite. They all have millions upon millions of dollars, most of them at the hands of their fathers, husbands, or family business. And they're all seasoning in Palm Beach. No one stays there full time. This is their snowbird getaway. And every season they come back making a home and a name for themselves, throwing these elaborate parties literally every other night, and dressing up in the most ridiculous couture. There's no style anywhere. You cannot find style with a flashlight and a shovel, just tacky. If it was a one-off, then it would be more acceptable, as opposed to this is the norm for you to look at these episodes and realize that all these women aspire to look the same, look very plastic, they look very fake, and it bleeds through every single episode. They pass money around within the social group to maintain the wealth and their social relevance. Wild. There's a lot of gossip around their celebrity connections, their affiliations with MAGA, because they are all part of the MAGA elite, and their desire to maintain that position. When you get to the end, if you think critically, this is when it becomes a little weird / scary. Because for all of the positioning that these white women are harmless and just the faces of femininity and beauty, and I'm using those words with air quotes because they're very strong on the eye. Looking a certain way trickles down into our everyday life. They are supposed to be the litmus test or the top hierarchy of beauty, wealth, and opulence. The beauty is used as a way to maintain their positioning and social status. Taking care of themselves is a full-time job. Making sure that they don't repeat outfits is a full-time job. And the most expensive couture is a full-time job. And it's passed around as harmless because they're in a self-contained, wealthy bubble, until you realize that these are the wives and the partners of the MAGA policymakers in real time. And that's where it gets dangerous. Hear me clearly. When Black women are aspiring to have wealth or amass wealth on their own, or even be partners to men that are wealthy, we're often classified as gold diggers or have an ulterior motive. Black women, based on my plight of the hot girl theory, are notorious for being exploited for all that we produce, all that we can give out, and even on our bodies and the way that we look. We are exploited without ever having true control over our agency, no matter the situation. These white women in Palm Beach can marry, have multiple husbands, and are comfortable. It's like no question that they have billionaire or bazillionaire spouses and partners. They're considered to know what they want. They play the game well, and they maintain their social status. It's a part of the game. But the thing is, that proximity to money, that proximity to power is where donations are made. In the rooms inside of Mar-A-Largo at charity functions where policy is created, decided on, and dispersed. Have we not seen Donald Trump reporting live from the golf course at Mar-A-Largo? They're behind the gates. Their social currency, social behaviors and patterns partnered up with these white men. This is where political alliances are formed that impact regular Americans' everyday lives. Their femininity seems harmless, but these wealthy white men need these women partners presented as palpable and harmless so that they can continue to make their decisions that impact the rest of us. If you want my honest opinion, half of these wealthy white men are closeted gay anyway. And you have to think about these things on a deeper level. What is really happening behind the gates? Watching all of these episodes, outside of the classic reality TV banter and them falling around all over each other, picking these catty arguments about who's got more money, who's more Palm Beach than the other. They act as though they're vulnerable, they're teary, and genuinely care about one another and these philanthropic endeavors, but I don't believe that they do. This is all an attempt to maintain their power. Romina, New Money, she often says in her confessionals, I want to be here. I want to be next to Donald Trump. I want to be next to Elon Musk. Girl, why? They are MAGA and they're crazy. That means all of y'all are MAGA and crazy. And this is where it gets dangerous, okay? Let's walk through this. This is social maneuvering. This is strategic and calculated. They want us to see them as just wives supporting their husband, mothers living their best lives, and simple socialites. They're really political operatives using their social capital, gatekeeping wealth and access to more power to keep other people out and maintain their hierarchy. Very dangerous as democracy is crumbling around us. They are the true enablers of this authoritarian regime. And it's all a facade. They all need one another. The men need the women need the men. They need this Palm Beach protection to maintain these positions. It's all a smile and a cocktail dress until they vote MAGA. And Donald Trump is in his second term. And here we are. Reporting live from Mar-A-Largo, he's making a golden ballroom and starting wars. And these women are standing there clapping and cheering him on. Okay? So if you can get through all of the episodes, it does become a psychological trap. And you're watching with your mouth agape because you're realizing it is, in fact, art imitating life. I also watched Royale, which is a scripted show. The gist of it is Kristen Wiig plays a character trying to claw her way into Palm Beach, but it's back in the 60s. So you can see how new money tries to get into the old money currency. But because it's a scripted show, you get a more background into how some of these women got to their wealth. A lot of those women aren't truly wealthy. They're scammers. Does this ring a bell? Like our current administration? Like Donald Trump, who purports to have all of this money and be this amazing businessman. But when you pull back his onion, he is a whole fraud, hiding under shell companies, stealing money. These are similarities that we can see in a scripted show, in this reality television show, and also in real life and in real time. Royale is actually not that bad, but it's not that good. It's very campy, but it does give you insight as to how we've gotten here and maintain this positioning. It's white women and white men protecting their wealth and making political moves. They pull their money, mix it and move it around, and then create policy. These white women benefit if they marry well, navigate social hierarchies, and perform charity without truly making any change. What is your charitable contribution if no one's benefiting? So we see that presenting these white women as harmless is truly dangerous. It can be dangerous because these women are teaching other generations, like their daughters, their peers, and anyone who aspires to be like them, how to perform charity without actually making any true changes, how to, on the surface, be considered beautiful and gracious, but you're secretly racist and very narcissistic. You never pose a threat to the empire you are creating within MAGA or the wealth you are growing and protecting that only services you and the people that look like you. That's what these men need. They want you to look pretty and shut up. So it just goes to prove that the baton being passed, a la Gail and Rosalind, has been done and is going to continue to happen because no one is infiltrating. Again, very dangerous. So within Palm Beach, it's the same place, the same games, the same schemes. The parallels are the social climbing, charity being viewed as a social sport and not generating any true change, performative concern for important causes, underlying racism, if not blatant racism. We actually see examples of blatant racism in the parallel with members only, a la Gail. Ooh, very racist. Classism and elitism. Ew. Yuck. And the proximity to political power. In Royale, they aspired to be close to the president at the time. And in members only, everyone wants to be best friends with Donnie Trump in Mar-A-Largo. Oh my goodness. What this reveals is that the system is the same, and it has been the same. According to 2026, there's very little signs of change. The uncomfortable questions then become, what are we doing, right? So what we're learning now is that the Mar-A-Largo matriarch is a danger even in 2026. Your current president reports live from Mar-a-Largo anytime he can avoid accountability by sitting in that White House that he's demolishing and turning it into a swap meet from Saudi Arabia. He loves to spend time at the country club amongst his people. They look just like what we see on reality television shows. And they domesticate their extremism. They're trying to make their presence feel normal or aspirational to the American public. They provide the aesthetic over their disgusting power and political motives while having these weekend parties. They have parties literally every weekend at Mar-A-Largo. They gatekeep the access. They decide who can come to Mar-A-Largo, which artists get to play the Mar-A-Largo scene. Not that anybody really wants to go, but it's a very who's who crowd based solely on wealth, access, and exchange. Who can better help drive the political agenda? And that's typically based on money and money alone. They're very racist, very elitist, and very, very focused on greed and capitalistic mobility in a patriarchal society. They enforce all of these class and cultural nuances in a political manner. They try to position this as normal or a new acceptability, and these white women are there on their arms, are positioned to appease what's really happening. These political machismo assholes can't be that bad if they have these women alongside them trying to placate or pacify what's really happening behind the scenes. But we know full well, based on what's happened over the last 2 terms of this presidential buffoon and his minions, that all of the big business deals, a lot of the political conversations and movement genuinely take place behind the walls within Palm Springs and within Mar-A-Largo. Danger, danger, danger. The women get to play this role like they don't really do the politics. They're not really the responsible ones. But based on the fact that they're the faces of BS charities, you know full well that they are ones also helping infiltrate and circulate these funds. Okay? They need each other. Patriarchy needs to control the narrative. Patriarchy needs to have these women in position, playing the role. But they love to hide under the facade of beauty and acting as though their visual representation is not nearly as powerful and dangerous as it truly is. A quick historical aside, white women have always been alongside and the dangerous partner to white supremacy or white narcissism that terrorizes our country. When you look back on history, there have been white women at the lynchings, having those picnics alongside black bodies hanging in the trees. When you look back in the Confederacy, there were white women alongside the slave owners and Confederate leaders owning slaves, terrorizing the slaves, if not worse than the men. There's always a white woman. You can't go too far. That the neck controls the head. And right within Nazi Germany, there's white women that are also the Aryan wife mothers to demonize and terrorize the Jews. How bad is the Holocaust, right? Just like now. How bad is ICE? We got to support the boys in blue. We have to raise money for the police officers. We have to protect our great American structure that is obviously terrorizing those around us that don't look like us. History proves over and over again that wealthy white women can be the most dangerous and cruel of all. So it's an aesthetic performance of white femininity that's been made to help sugarcoat the atrocities that we're seeing in real time. Make it seem refined, make it seem normal, as opposed to terroristic. So we're not just watching Palm Beach shows in fantasy, we're watching political destructions in real time. I wanted to share this last parallel. So currently we have a baby boom of the wives of the politicos in the MAGA office that are now pregnant. I'll drop a link to this article that I'm referencing, but there's been a recent wave of pregnancies, which goes into this narrative that the white men need to procreate more as their race is quickly coming to be the minority race. One part of the MAGA agenda is to procreate and do that heavily and by any means, a la The Handmaid's Tale. So in this MSN article, it points out that Usha Vance, the wife of our Vice President J.D. Vance, at the age of 40, has recently announced that she's pregnant with her 4th child. This comes days after Katie Miller, 34, who is currently married to Trump's Deputy Chief of Staff of Policy, Stephen Miller. She's pregnant with a new child as well. And this comes a few days after White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, 28, announced that she's pregnant with her 2nd child, a girl. So now we're seeing the bodies of white women in the public, pregnant bodies, giving birth, giving life, seeming like they're one of us. It may not be a coincidence that they're pregnant at the same time, But it's very interesting that these pregnancy clusters are trying to push forth a social narrative, if you will, that MAGA procreation and passing the baton is a thing that we should promote, celebrate, and have nothing to fear. It's just the good old American way. And we all know how dangerous it is to have more of these MAGA babies running around, sharing their racist narratives with the rest of the world. It just seems like it never ends. You know that both President Trump and Elon Musk are huge fans of expanding the birther rate within the white race, and these messages do have an impact. So note that members only Palm Beach and even Palm Royale, they're not just shows, they're more like a mirror to American fascism. And they're asking us, if you look with the critical lens, are you willing to tolerate this, or are you going to try to challenge the systems that maintain it? Just because it's served up spray tanned in a cocktail dress, a very couture and expensive and tacky cocktail dress, doesn't mean that it's not dangerous. Are we going to be entertained, or are we going to challenge these systems? We have actionable takeaways after watching, observing, and digesting all of which I just shared. The first is that white women should not be given the benefit of the doubt because they are very dangerous to our political well-being and the political warfare that's happening within the United States. They do have power, although they try to appear as though they don't, or that they're harm. Beauty doesn't equal innocence. Tears don't make them powerless nor vulnerable. Both can be weaponized against the American public. And we see that happen all the time, Karen. And femininity and them being wives thereof does not excuse their complicity or their ability to access power. We should name what it is that we're watching on television, which is why I think it's great to have a critical lens when we're talking about these things. When they claim that just existing in these spaces is no big deal, you should challenge that it is. Very political. You cannot be married or associated with MAGA or these men with these political ideologies and patriarchal structure and not take accountability for your role. You are, in fact, just as dangerous, if not more so, than the man. When these women are shown on television or within the media as aspirational, you have to question why that is. Why are they in such a hurry to push forth this narrative to the rest of the public? Knowledge is power. Awareness is our revolution, and challenging the status quo with critical thought is one of the ways that we can reach an alternative solution. We don't have to accept the power structures that exist in Palm Beach, but I think it is very important that we are aware of what's happening in our media, the narrative that they're trying to share, and of course, ignoring how much power that they truly do have. And I think that this is really personal for all of us if we take a deeper look at it, because our liberation is never going to happen if we wait for the white people that are in charge within MAGA or any white people to give it to us. We're going to have to take back our own liberation. So I've broken it down. I've named it. I've given you all some things to think about. And I would love for you to let me know how you think about what I've just shared. Did you watch Members Only Palm Beach? Have you checked out Palm Royale, the scripted television show? And what do you think? And I'm truly fascinated, and we're going to keep talking about it. If any of this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because this is how we're going to keep the conversation going. And I would love for you to get onto my email list. I'm going to drop those links below so I can share more resources that would hopefully provide more change. Change starts with taking a look at what's happening with critical lens, but then thinking about what you can do on an individual level. I've got some resources there as well. It starts with self-love, self-awareness, and especially if you're a Black woman, centering yourself and decentering the patriarchy. Thank you again for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time for a Real Talk video. Bye.